Good morning, everyone. Let me just start this off because it is time, and this is a topic that that has a lot, and I can only cover a bit. And it will be very nice to hear your side. The issue of controversies, CBC controversies, are so many. All the claims and the arguments that we keep hearing, some in the media, some of them are my own, your own. We have our own claims, both positive and negative, some of which are hard to verify. Some of them have been verified. We can check, we can what nowadays we call fact checking, fact check. But some of these myths and arguments and controversies and claims become so popular. They enter the popular social psyche that they acquire a life of their own. I think it is good because we ourselves in academia are going to have to deal with these controversies. Our students will ask us, our colleagues, and people out there expect us to give them the correct position to these particular claims and arguments. There are numerous claims, but I thought that I would share the ones I think are the most common today, 6 of them. So the purpose of this, again, is so that we won't have time, of course, in 25 minutes to delve deeply into them, but to raise the particular awareness amongst ourselves so that we can think about them and we can do our own research and get the facts. At least we should have a way of answering to non-professionals, people who are not in academia, our own carefully considered opinions about these controversies. So let's get into it. CBC controversies. All right. The first one, in my opinion, is this one, that CBC was hurried, that this thing was just thrown into the mix suddenly. It came out of the blues. Somebody pulled it out of a hat, and suddenly here we are with the competency-based curriculum or competency-based learning. These did not go through proper processes. Shouldn't there have been public participation, etc., etc.? What's your view? Just type there in the chat between 0 and 5. Your immediate instinctive feeling about this particular claim between 0 and 5. How would you score this particular claim that CBC was hurried? So 0, no credibility. 5, high credibility. Obviously, I don't have an answer. I'm not going to pretend that I know the particular answer. I'm just raising this as a common claim. So I see there 1, 3, 4, 3. Immediately you can see that this is something that perhaps need a bit of verification. And as I said, personally, I don't have the answer. Was it hurried or not? All I can tell you is that there is a document found in the KICD website that appears to show a very long process that has they have gone through. That they did a needs assessment study in 2016, as long ago as 6 years ago, at the very beginning, that they tried out and came up with a curriculum framework of the early years, that the CBC was piloted, that there was a phased-in rollout, careful phased-in rollout, that there has been progressive implementation. KICD defends itself vigorously against this claim. This is how it appears. But whether this is just the official counterclaim to this, I'm not too sure. We really have to check on the ground whether these actually happened, whether it was done properly. Obviously, this is an issue. I'm just putting it out there for you to see and then check it out. Did this happen? Was this enough? Is this how to do it? Could it have been done better? Was it too sudden at the point where we are? How many years have passed since the process began? Was it done professionally? KICD apparently has what they call the curriculum review process, a very professional process which you can see there on their website. Did they follow that? If not, why did they use a different one? These are the questions I think we have to answer. Let me go on to claim number 2. Teachers are poorly prepared. Score it. Is it credible? Between 0 and 5, what's your feeling? And you can type in a comment if you wish. 4. Okay, credible. They are poorly prepared. William says. Lydia says 3. I have a feeling that I would score it either 3 or 4 myself also. Gabriel says 4. Okay. 4. Somebody actually needs to do a quick study. I don't think it would be that difficult to do a quick study to check the level of preparation of the teachers. For instance, in January, at the end of January, these kids will be in junior secondary school, grade 7. Are the teachers in grade 7 prepared? Okay. I happen to have relatives, close relatives who are teachers. I know they've gone through a lot of training, but that's an instance. We need a study across board for the whole country. How prepared are they? This is what one of them told me. Some of our colleagues were selected and invited for training in KICD in January 2022. This is a junior secondary school teacher who's going to teach the incoming grade 7s. Then in May this year, they were sent out all over the country to cascade the training. So it looks like there was a TOT for master trainers early this year. 6 months before. 6 months before you roll out, you do this type of thing. Is that adequate really? Maybe, maybe not. Each school was asked to send 6 teachers. Now these are the TOTs, the master trainers. They go out to particular schools or counties, and then they have all these huge groups of teachers coming from many schools, and then they train them. So this particular teacher told me, when we went for this training, these guys seemed to have no clue. They were clicking on slides and they were acting as mere voiceovers. They were even unable to answer our questions. If this is true across board, this might just be an instance again from my experience. But if it is true across board, this is very serious. William says, teachers seem to not be prepared, particularly on methodological approaches, mindsets. Sitting in a class, listening to PowerPoint does not amount to preparedness. It doesn't achieve the mindset training. I totally agree. There seems definitely to be a problem here. But if this is what we have anecdotally, somebody needs to do a study, as I said. I love this picture which appeared in the Star, showing kids, I think in grade 5, doing some practical work collaboratively. Obviously, this is in a classroom. But this points to many, many questions. A lot of kids are not doing this in class. They are doing this at home. If they are doing at home, is there collaborative learning? No. And that's one of the competencies, collaboration and communication. Here, it's easy. How about assessment? How do you assess competencies? It's supposed to be continuous all the time. So the teacher is here observing, and therefore they can assess as it happens. If they do it at home and they just bring the product, Yes, you can assess, but that's not ideal. You need the evidence for formative assessment. That brings me to claim number 3. The idea of formative assessment is untenable. How can you measure performance without exams? It's impossible to do placement without summative exams. I've seen this being said again and again in different words. In your opinion, is this claim credible? Between 0 and 5, how would you score this claim? Gabriel says 1. William says 3. There's an issue here of how assessment is being done. But this issue of people wanting exams, I think the CBC philosophy is very clear that we want to get rid of exams. We obviously aren't going to get rid of exams. Today, in fact, begins KEPSA. I don't know whether that's the correct acronym, KEPSA. The Kenya Primary School Education Assessment has begun this morning, as you know. You may have seen all those yellow buses driving like mad very early this morning. They are collecting papers and taking them to the schools. There is an exam. There is a summative exam. The only difference is that, unlike in the previous system, most of the assessment has already been done formative. This 40% assessment is not an afterthought. This is something that was planned for from the very beginning. The only thing is, how exactly is it being done? You may have had complaints that these kids have never been assessed using multiple choice, that this is a strange animal that is being thrust into their faces this morning. In the last few weeks, maybe, as they practiced, there are issues of assessment, clearly. Sorry, I have to just keep moving on. I'm reading your charts there. Gabriel says, the claim is connected to the previous issue of teachers' preparedness. Before we sought the preparedness, then the assessment seems troubled. Exactly. Now, if we're going to do formative assessment, do teachers know how to do this? You may remember 2 Gulps away, Caroline Maingi gave us an amazing presentation here about assessment. One of her kids came home with a 25-page assessment. Whoa! Well, maybe some teachers know how to do it, but at least in extent, in quantity, we are seeing something. How about quality? Who is checking on that? We need to find that out. It might be working, by the way. I'm not dismissing anything. But I have a very interesting clip here, which is related to the next claim. A very, very serious claim. I know you will understand when I start this.
Bullying in our schools and the disturbing incident in California. A student hit and then apparently choked as a staff member appears to walk by without intervening. Tonight, the 12-year-old boy's family demanding to know why it took 20 minutes to call for help. Here's ABC's chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, and we warn you, this is difficult.
That jarring video shows this 6th grader slammed against that wall at a Los Angeles area charter school last year. The boy with a red backpack then chokes him, according to a lawsuit filed by the then 12-year-old's mother this week. And that's a teacher walking by. She appears to pause to glance at the scuffle, then moves on. The suit claims that in the 20 minutes before the school called 911, the boy lost consciousness at least twice.
I said, you think you need to call 911? No, you need to call 911. And in the back of my mind is, why wasn't that the first thing you did?
This MRI released by the family's lawyers taken over a year after the incident shows what the neurologist treating the boy says are disintegrated vertebrae and signs of permanent brain damage. The suit says the school failed the boy in every way humanly possible. Tonight, the school says it's concerned by the incident and that it quickly addresses bullying of any kind on our campuses. David, the family saying it's not seeking criminal charges against that alleged bully, but it is demanding a jury trial against the school, saying it displayed negligence. David.
Matt Gupin tonight. Matt, thank you.
So there we are. This is what you might have seen. They're too young. Are they? Are secondary schools equipped to protect 12-year-olds? Can we put 12-year-olds together with 18-year-olds suddenly like that? Between 0 and 5, what do you think about this claim? Is it credible? Okay, yes, they are too young and need extra protection. So this is going on now. It's one of the controversies. They need to stay in primary schools. That's what many people are saying. Secondary school teachers have no experience with young children. I'm not too sure about that. But it is being said, if mixed with 18-year-olds, there will be incidents of bullying, and at worst, defenseless 12-year-olds will be targeted for sexual abuse. You may recall in the past few months, the issue of homosexuality and so on has been there in the limelight. So this is one of the claims. Are secondary schools the best place to put 12-year-olds? And this, I think, was a subject of presentation to the recent task force. And maybe we should expect something to come out of the task force if they found this claim credible. Selina says the teachers may not be trained to handle this age. Okay. This is a critical issue. We have to think about it. William has posted a link there. Please do check it out and watch. Copy that link that William has posted, and please do take time to have a look at it and watch. This is a very critical issue. We can't joke around with life. Let me go on. Claim number 5, CBC has never worked anywhere in the world. Score this claim between 0 and 5. In your opinion, what's your gut feeling about this, even if we haven't done the research? Two. 1. It seems to me you're giving this very low credibility. I actually have a short clip from an expert. This is what she says.
Ongoing CBC debate, and one of the key attributes of the competency-based curricula is to produce holistic learners who respond to the needs of the society and the job market. As Kenyans discuss the implementation of CBC, we shift our focus today to some of the countries that have successfully migrated to the curriculum and how seamless and successful implementation of the program has been a game changer in those countries. Shadrach Miti with the report.
These are grade 4 learners at Excel Academy in Githurai, Kiambu County. It is a music practical lesson, and they are learning how to play guitar. Such are some of the new elements incorporated in the competency-based curriculum, which emphasizes on both theory and practical. The end game is to allow learners discover and understand themselves in their early years. Dr. Jenny Mbunye, a curriculum development expert, says this is what defines and sets apart the CBC.
844 system is authoritarian in nature. 844 system is rigid, controlled, and departmentalized. But CBC is dynamic, it is flexible, and it can easily be contextualized. CBC combines two things that 844 fails to do. It combines theory and practice by simply taking learning back to the learner. The learner takes charge of their own learning, and that they can discover knowledge and that they can construct knowledge.
Competency-based curriculum has been listed as the key to the economic and social transformation in countries such as China and Singapore, which embraced the system nearly 3 decades ago.
Singapore began eradicating the problem of unemployment and gaining economic stability through CBC. That is more than 24 years ago, and that is why they are where they are. Let's look at China today. Everybody talks about China, how China is doing so well, they're able to sustain themselves economically, and that now they're a model for all of us. We go to China to look for money. China began their CBC more than 20 years ago.
While embracing the CBC in its education system, Singapore is said to have refined its curriculum to strengthen the preparation process of its young population for the future. This was realized through deliberate changes to the curriculum, infrastructure and technology support. Learners were also made to learn more effectively through acquiring thinking, learning and communication skills through harnessing the use of information technology. The National Education Initiative was used to nurture national cohesion and national identity among students, which helped students recognize the weaknesses and challenges that Singapore faced. And most importantly, there was a shared understanding among the professionals that for the process to succeed, it needed to be adaptive.
Singapore left the discussion on CBC to experts. China came up with something called the National Social Competency Framework, which went out there to sensitize people and give the masses clear information about CBC.
While countries such as China, Singapore and the Caribbean continue to reap the fruits of CBC, other countries such as Pakistan are said to have failed due to misguided discussions full of misinformation.
Pakistan embarked on a journey towards the new paradigm shift in education. But then the discussion took the angle that it is taking in Kenya, where everybody was just, everybody was criticizing instead of critiquing. And they let go of it. And now Pakistan is regretting why this happened to them. I'm asking my fellow Kenyans, let us take cue from that.
All right, that's I think very interesting. I want to stop it there. So Dr. Imbunya is saying we have to be careful. Misguided discussions full of misinformation. Are we doing a Pakistan or are we doing a Singapore? Should we leave it to the experts? Well, our system here demands we have a law, we have a constitution. We live in a system where we demand public participation, stakeholder engagement, etc., etc. We see nothing is perfect. But well, I think I would agree with many of you who scored this claim that CBC has never worked anywhere in the world very lowly. I like the comment there by William that it has succeeded in different forms. It's been deployed in different forms, needs flexibility. It's a malleable animal. And something very interesting there by Dr. Kidiva, that we should check out International Bureau of Education, IBE website on CBC. I'll definitely check that out, Dr. Kidiva. Thank you very, very much for that.
And let us not.
Now, this picture here was taken by a close relative of mine, just not very far from our house. It's a little video. It shows a man here. This is not a little boy, by the way, but the face is a bit hidden. And he's doing some work, CBC work for some neighborhood kids. He's making a guitar. So the clip just goes on. I mean, it's not a long clip. It's about half a minute, 30 seconds. It's just a man making a guitar. What's the big deal? There's no big deal here. Why did I even bring this clip? CBC is working, as you can see, it's promoting our artisans. There's nothing wrong with this, is there? Who is supposed to have been making this guitar? So it brings me to claim number 6. CBC is an excessive burden to parents. There are issues of expense. There are issues of time. The parents have to spend all the time. They go home at 3 p.m. so that they can start doing the CBC assignment. They have to go to the shops to buy stuff and materials. They have to go looking for these artisans to make stuff for the kids. What the heck is going on here? So I remember I saw a clip of a parent in Kwale complaining how he had to travel to town to go do photocopies. His first time to go to a cyber. And he says he spent 300 bob. Quite a bit of money for him. What's going on? How do you score this on a credibility scale of 0 to 5? David says 4, Lydia says 4, William says 4, Selena says 3. There is a point here, something is going wrong somewhere. Clearly, something isn't working. When you look at the CBC documents, this is not supposed to happen. This is actually not CBC. But something is going wrong somewhere, and I'm not sure what it is. Could it be the teachers who are unaware of the fact that they are supposed not to necessarily follow every activity that is written there, but those activities are written in the framework, in the designs as suggested activities. Suggested. Doesn't it say very clearly in the guidelines there that they should improvise with local materials? Why are these projects even being done at home? They could be done in school. In fact, one of the teachers told me that one of the problems she has is that they don't seem to be timetabling project work in school. If you don't timetable project work in school, how do you assess? Aren't you supposed to be doing assessment as learning and assessment for learning instead of just assessment of learning? Something isn't working here. This same teacher told me that in its design, CBC itself is not expensive. But for instance, she was talking about the case where teachers are supposed to document. Actually, it's the pupils themselves. The students themselves are supposed to document their process. And that's the source of all these photocopies and so on. They're trying to document the process for purposes of assessment. So if the documentation required, she said, is in picture form, aren't there a variety of other ways that this could be deployed? Different learners some can take photos, of course, on their phones, for instance, and just post on WhatsApp or send to the teacher. Some can draw and color. Some can cut out pictures, paste, they can use whatever. They need not go to town to do photocopies. She was suggesting that teachers should even negotiate with their learners. Just put the project there out and ask the students, how do we go about this? And you may be surprised that the students have some ideas. And of course, involve other stakeholders. I think this has many repercussions for us in the university whenever we are giving assignments. How much do we involve the students? Do we check out whether students have access to materials, the different abilities of our students? Are there different methods of approach that the students might come up with? Different ways of doing a project. Some may do a video project, others are preparing flowcharts on Manila paper or on Word document. Others may create solid models, maybe. They could work in groups according to their own desired particular approaches. There's a teacher who told me, secondary school teacher, that one morning she arrived in school. She teaches in the secondary section and she's waiting for the grade 7s next year. And she's been watching the primary section. And one day she saw pupils alighting from like 40 different cars. It's a private school. 40 different cars, each of them carrying a scarecrow. A very scary scarecrow from 40 different cars. Now, what's the purpose of that? What will the teacher do with 40 scarecrows in the middle of town in Nairobi? Might it not have been better to do this in school, in groups, so that the learners engage with each other, gaining competencies in collaboration, communication, even critical thinking and problem solving, working together? Probably these scarecrows were not done anywhere in Buruburu or wherever the artisans did this. Okay. So there are these suggestions, I don't know what you think, about allotting project work in school timetable, using locally available materials, allow a variety of methods, involve students, engage parents early. What shall we do ourselves when it comes to inquiry-based education, project-based learning, which we want to deploy, which are various approaches to competency learning, competency-based learning? So, summary, CBC was hurried, teachers poorly prepared, formative assessment untenable, grade 7 too young, CBC never worked anywhere, excessive burden. This, in my opinion, are at the top of the controversies. I'm sure you can add to this list. We've run out of time. I'll read and keep your comments, and we can keep this discussion going in the future. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for attending. CBC. Wow. I like the comments that I'm reading there. The default has been parents getting involved instead of teachers facilitating learning. Takes us back to the previous point. It's true, we don't seem to know how to, we have amazing plans, amazing documents. What's wrong with us when it comes to implementation? John Dewey wrote, I'm reading Dr. Akidiva's comment, extensively on education. He was a pioneer of progressive education movement. You could have a look at his democracy and education experience and education, the school and society. Starters begin with my pedagogic creed. Wonderful. Sadly, ladies and gentlemen, we've run out of time. We've gone 9 minutes overboard. So I have to stop it here. Thank you very much. This was the Platinum edition because it was number 70 of the Coffee in One Gulp. I thank all of you for keeping this going. I hope we are learning a lot. Number 71 will appear 2023. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you very much, Ian.